My name is Connie Turner, and I am going to be reading from the prologue. And so it begins. The starting place, perhaps, is 807 South Grove in Marshall, Texas, since that was the address of the first home that I remember. I can recall having only one birthday party when I was coming up, and it was at the house on South Grove. I can still remember walking down South Grove and heading north toward downtown because that was the route I took to go to church or to town or to visit my friends until we moved on University Street, where we had our first home with indoor plumbing. I had not thought about that until one of my neighbors said her cabin in the mountains only had an outdoor toilet. And it was so funny because she said it like she was telling me something I would know nothing about. So I had to tell her that was the way we lived in the South when I was coming up. Everybody we knew had an outside toilet because at that point sewer lines were restricted in African American neighborhoods. So I would be 6 or 7 years old before we had a house with an inside bathroom. Before then, we had an outside toilet, and inside we had what was called a slop jar, which we used at night if you did not go outside. These days, young people have no idea of the way we used to live. However, for the first several years of my life, that's how it was, since a sewer line wasn't available to us. Yet we could get water from Gar, our neighbor, because she and Chief lived in the only house on the block with running water. Our houses were side by side, so we were able to get our water from Gar's hydrant. I can remember that well because one time when Daddy was taking the bucket for water over to Gar's, he fell and was badly hurt. I think he fractured some ribs or something because the doctor had to come, but I was kept out. Children were not allowed to come around when adults had gotten hurt, so I didn't get to see him until they got him all wrapped up. At any rate, we got our water from Gar. However, I got so much more. She was really the person who raised me. I spent more time with her than either of my parents, and she would take me to CME Church with her, where I got to know Reverend Curry and the people at CME. I later learned that it was Miles Chapel Christian Methodist Episcopal, and for a while I went to Miles Chapel more than I did Bethesda, which was the Baptist church where my parents and I went. Miles Chapel was near the quarters where I spent so much of my childhood. Even now, at almost 90 years of age, I find myself looking back to the quarters, where my friend Lily Mae and I listened to former slaves telling their stories of overcoming hardships and heard the mournful sounds of the spirituals they sang late at night, as well as the joyful sounds of the jubilees they would stage during the day. It was from the people I met there that I learned to appreciate my heritage. They were people who had overcome so much. However, there was no sense of doom and gloom in the stories they told because they always talked about what they had overcome, even laughing because they had made it through. Oh, the Lothrop quarters. They had lived in shotgun houses which had 3 rooms that you could see straight through, but they were all torn down when the highway was built through the quarters. Before that, the Civilian Conservation Corps camps were there, built as a relief effort during the Great Depression. As part of President Roosevelt's New Deal, the camps gave jobs to people who were building up Marshall's roads and highways. But some of the workers there were writers because the government was also collecting the stories of former slaves. It's interesting how it was arranged for poor people to live after slavery, since the South still wanted its workforce. Benny said music spoke to her on a deep level her entire life. It was music that kept her going to the quarters where she was first introduced to the spirituals. I greatly appreciate her resolve over the years to keep the sounds of the spirituals alive for all to hear and appreciate.